Okay, let's get back to the point at hand. Number one, what's this all mean? And is Rihanna testifying because she generally wants this guy locked up, or is she just following the law? And will she really testify? Joining me now for more on this, extra correspondent Carlos Diaz. Good to have you back, Carlos. Also with us, clinical psychologist Michelle Golland and defense attorney Darren Kavanoki. We're also taking your calls at 1-877-TEL-HLN. All right, Darren, is that the key in all this? Whether or not, do you have a case if Rihanna doesn't testify?
Well, it certainly makes it much more challenging, but in California, we have a bunch of hearsay exceptions that allows victims of domestic violence to have their statements introduced even if they have buyer's remorse and don't testify. And as Michelle, I'm sure, will echo, that's a fairly common situation where somebody who's a victim of domestic violence later on recants or has buyer's remorse. They don't want to go through with it. They don't want to participate in the trial. And so prosecutors do have a way to get those statements in, even if that declarant, as we say, is absent.
Okay, let's ask Michelle, how difficult would it be for Rihanna to testify against Chris Brown here?
Well, I think it's very difficult for victims of domestic violence because what happens is they're in the incident of the trauma, and that's when the police come and all the statements are made and those utterances are made in a state of excitement and trauma. And then the abuser becomes calm and wants the honeymoon phase and, again, reels back in this case, Rihanna. Chris Brown, wooing her again and bringing her to the place where she feels guilty about testifying against him. But that's why these laws are so important.
Okay. Carlos, what do we know about, has Rihanna been cooperative with the authorities since?
I mean, if you saw in court yesterday, you saw her attorneys basically just, palling around with Chris Brown.
Right.
So it looks like Chris Brown and Rihanna are in the same camp. And one point that I want to make very quickly about the celebrity angle of this, let's keep one thing in mind. Every day that this goes on, that Chris Brown is still on trial for this, and the next time we'll see anyone in court is April 6th because the arraignment was delayed until April 6th. Every day that this is delayed and this goes on is a bad day for Chris Brown because in the public eye, he is guilty, because all of the things that came out yesterday, all these horrific details that came out yesterday, basically the public has found him guilty, and as a celebrity, that is damning to his credibility, to his personality, because he is dependent on people loving him to buy his albums and to buy tickets to his shows.
Oh yeah, Katie, I want to talk to my producer.
On that point, Mike.
Yeah, let me just pick up on Carlos's point, then I'll get you in, Darren. Just on some of those details from the detective notes. Carlos, you mentioned it; they're out there. Katie, if we could see just a few of those details, and that's what if you're talking about on a career front, Carlos. Yeah, how does he get over the top? How does he get over that? When you're talking about these details, steering wheel in one hand, allegedly punching her with another, saying he's going to beat the S out of her, he's going to kill her. And what this guy did not have the reputation of being a thug. He was a good guy, right, Carlos?
And the only way, and Chris Brown he had the squeaky clean image, and the only way that Chris Brown can get through this, because there are rumors that the two of them got married in Miami, the only way that he can get through this is if he does, in fact, marry Rihanna in the next, week or two, and they come out hands held high and this and that, or perhaps they both go on Oprah with, holding hands and talk about how much they love each other and this and that.
You think that's going to happen?
What about
Chris
Brown actually really taking responsibility? And actually doing something positive out of this, instead of minimizing yet again what he has done. That's what his best PR would be.
I agree with you that he does need to be positive about this, but without Rihanna's support, any positive act that he does is going to fall on deaf ears.
Okay, guys, let's take a quick break. We got a lot of people wanting in on the phones and more on this topic. Again, Chris Brown facing 2 felonies. Will Rihanna testify? Are they getting back together? More on that coming up. Taking your calls at 1-877-TEL-HLN. Welcome back. This is Prime News on HLN. HLN, we're about news and views. I want your view on the latest with Chris Brown and Rihanna. Let's go to the phones. Debbie in California. Debbie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike.
Hey,
Thanks
Debbie.
for taking my call.
Yeah.
I was a victim of domestic violence and lucky enough to get out of it. I'm really disturbed by the protective order. It mentions do not annoy, do not harass, do not molest Rihanna, but I guess it's okay to punch her in the face. And, I have to say, and I hope maybe Rihanna's listening, every time we forgive, the beatings do get worse. And when I saw Rihanna's photo, I have to tell you the first person that I thought of was Nicole Simpson.
Yeah, you're the second caller to mention that. And Debbie, you just mentioned the photo from TMZ, and let's take a look at that. It is brutal when we see a beautiful woman like Rihanna, and that's the beating she took, allegedly at the hands of Chris Brown. Michelle,
I want, first of all, you are so courageous that you are on the air and sharing your story, the caller. And I think that's what is so important about this issue. Not that are they going to be together and all the Hollywood hype about it, but this happens to ordinary women every day. 1 in 3 women are sexually or physically abused in their lifetime. That's what we need to understand. And my plea, when I look at this, is to, you know, have the families of Rihanna and of Chris Brown. Chris Brown's mother was a victim of domestic violence. For her to help Chris see what he could do with the power that he has in owning this, whatever sentence that means, but to own it, to speak to youth about what can happen when you are raging and out of control, that would be important. And for Rihanna's family to get her help, to help separate them at this time, you know, as far as psychologically and the treatment that would be done is they need to be separated.
Isn't it too soon, Michelle? We're talking, what, 3 weeks?
Yes. They need to be separated for, I would say, 3 months, no contact, her be in therapy, him be in therapy, and then, you know, and they are young enough I don't believe that once an abuser, always an abuser. I believe that everyone can change if they try and if they acknowledge and they're responsible.
Darren, you want in?
Yeah, please. One point that's being overlooked here is that protective order being what's called a level 1 or a best behavior protective order. That's not any failure on the part of the court or prosecutors to look out for Rihanna. That order was issued because that's the only level of protection that Rihanna wanted. All it requires is for Chris to be on his best behavior. If Rihanna wanted to be away from him, it would be an entirely different order that would be issued. And one is left to wonder, and I don't mean to be cynical about these things, but I can't help but wonder how much of this is tailored to relate to the court of public opinion rather than what's going to happen in a court of law. Because obviously Chris Brown's reputation has been damaged extensively, and he is, as Carlos pointed out earlier, already been convicted in the court of public opinion.
Well, guys, we're going to have to leave it there. Appreciate it. Darren Kavanaugh, Michelle Golland, Carlos Diaz. Thanks so much, guys.